Drama at a rural airfield.
One man dead after a light aircraft hits a crop sprayer on landing. Anglia Tonight is next.
With the responsive touchscreen on the new BlackBerry Storm on Vodafone, incredible power is in your hands. Purpose-built for Vodafone. Coming soon. Vodafone. Make the most of now.
New Green Giant soups, packed full of vegetable goodness. Make time to enjoy New Green Giant soups. So much vegetable goodness, they're worth reclaiming lunch for. And one of your 5 a day.
Ho, ho, ho.
Green Giant.
You'll find it all in the Furniture Village sale. Up to 50% off stunning dining collections and stylish sofas and chairs. You'll find everything's at a sale price. And in the Furniture Village sale, you'll also find interest-free credit. Order now and you can have this beautiful furniture in time for Christmas. Many extra offers end this weekend in the Furniture Village sale.
Enter a new dimension in space. Quadrio by Hotpoint. The ideal atmosphere for your food. Quadrio by Hotpoint.
Fact, most cleaners remove dirt but could leave bacteria. One bacteria could become 2 million overnight, so some things that look clean aren't. Dettol Next Generation All-in-One is unbeatable at cutting through tough grease and powers through soap scum. But unlike ordinary cleaners, it kills 99.9% of bacteria, leaving surfaces clean and safe. Dettol All-in-One. Dettol protects. Fact.
Gorgeous, isn't it? Not that. My Tetley Red Bush. Welcome to the Cederberg Mountains in South Africa, the home of Tetley Red Bush. It tastes lovely with milk or without milk. Or without milk. And it's hydrating, like water. Go away, you naughty boy. And there's no caffeine, so sweet dreams. Be quiet. People are sleeping.
Grand Arcade, Cambridge, the architects of fashion.
A special National Television Award to Julie Boudreau.
There is one award ceremony
EastEnders
that is different from the rest.
Julie Richard this morning.
It's the people's favourites.
Big Brother.
The TV award ceremony that relies entirely on your vote.
Thank you very much, thank you.
The National Television Awards 2008, tonight at 8, ITV1.
It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to Anglia Tonight.
First with the news from Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex.
Tonight's top story, one man dead, another seriously injured as a light aircraft crashes into a crop sprayer as it comes into land.
A big row at the Big Top. Animal rights anger over the last circus in Britain, still travelling with an elephant.
This elephant's made enough money for these people. She's been exploited enough and, you know, shouldn't she live out the rest of her natural life in a happy environment?
The circus says after half a century she's happiest staying with them. Also tonight,
from the road to Wembley to the roads on his rounds, the postman up bright and early after his non-league team's late-night heroics.
And we are especially happy to be in the capital of my native country.
And the day that thousands turned out to see the King and Queen. We remember a landmark day for a landmark building. Thanks for joining us. Good evening from Sascha and me.
First tonight, one man has been killed and another seriously injured after a light aircraft crash in Norfolk.
It happened at Seething Airfield, just south of Norwich, just before 2 o'clock this afternoon.
It appears the aircraft collided with a farm vehicle as it was trying to land.
Well, Stuart Leith is at Seething Airfield live for us now. So, Stuart, more can you tell us about this?
Well, Stephen, it was at around 10 to 2 this afternoon that the two-seater light aircraft crashed here at Seething Airfield, which is a private airfield just off the Bungay Road south of Norwich. And now we understand that 2 men were in the aircraft, and it was as it was coming in to land at the airfield that it somehow clipped a tractor with crop spraying equipment on it, and that was near a hedge at one end of the airfield. That caused, we understand, the aircraft to crash into the ground just short of the runway. It then burst into flames, and fire crews actually had to cut 2 men free from the wreckage. They were treated here at the scene by ambulance crews, but unfortunately 1 man died. The other man was taken to the Norfolk and Norwich hospital, where he's been treated for serious injuries. The driver of the tractor has been treated for shock.
So, Stuart, what's the latest with the police investigation? Where does it go from here?
Well, the airfield has been closed, and police will now be liaising with the Air Accident Investigation Branch in order to determine exactly how these 2 vehicles, the aircraft and the crop spraying tractor, came into such close proximity, and what exactly it was that led to this crash that has left 1 man dead.
Stuart, thank you very much indeed. Well, next tonight, campaigners opposed to the use of animals in circuses start to stage a protest in Norwich tonight.
They're fighting on behalf of Anne, a 56-year-old elephant that's been touring with Bobby Roberts' Super Circus for half a century.
Now, the protesters say it's cruel. The circus organisers say Anne has retired but continues to stay with them because that's where she's happiest. Natalie Gray reports now.
Anne is the only elephant left in Britain still travelling with a circus. She's been with this one since she was 3. Now 55, she's too old to perform. But she does come on in the interval to be photographed, and not everyone's happy.
She's not performing, but she's still dragged around from one circus to another. And I'm sure for an elephant at that age, she wouldn't want to do it if she had the choice.
Circus owner Bobby Roberts says this is the only home Anne knows, and it would be cruel to move her now.
To go to a sanctuary, there's only a sanctuary in America, she couldn't stand the boat journey. You know, it's not fair for her to do that. And everybody, all the authorities and DEF and everybody says she's best where she is.
There are also ponies, horses, dogs, donkeys and a camel in this circus. Local authorities in our region are divided over whether or not to ban circuses that use performing animals. Of the 28 local councils we've spoken to in Norfolk, Suffolk and Essex, nearly half say they don't allow them on council-owned land. The other half told us they don't have an outright ban. It means the circuses can come to town as long as they comply with animal welfare standards. Times have certainly changed. In 1971, it was a big event when the circus came to Cambridge. And here's Bobby Roberts at 18 in a show with performing elephants. He's become such an expert that zoos call on him for advice when they have a problem, dubbing him the Elephant Man.
I do get upset because we love the animals and the animals love us, you know.
What is your view about animals in circuses?
I think it should be allowed as long as they are well looked after. It's no different to having elephants or animals in the zoo as far as I'm concerned. You can see that the elephants and the other animals we've seen here are exceptionally well cared for, and if they're loved and they're happy, then what makes the difference to actually just visiting them in the zoo?
If they're well looked after and they get the right care, then fair enough, but the circuses need to be able to prove that they are providing that care.
There used to be an argument that a circus without animals is like a pub without beer. Things have moved on, but what's the kindest thing for Anne? The circus says she should spend the rest of her days here with the people she considers to be her family. But those planning to protest outside tonight's performance think otherwise.
Isn't it about time? This elephant's made enough money for these people. She's been exploited enough, and, you know, shouldn't she live out the rest of her natural life in a happy environment with other elephants?
Circuses with animals might be rare these days, but they're certainly popular if this afternoon's full house is anything to go by. Natalie Gray, Anglia News, Norwich.
Now, all my betting there are a few hangovers in the Suffolk town of Leiston today after the team's amazing success in the FA Cup. They're through to the first round for the first time in their history.
They're joined by two of the region's other non-league clubs, Bury and Harlow, hoping to win glory and a place against a top Premier League side. Malcolm Robertson reports.
Most people associate Leiston with being on the doorstep of Sizewell nuclear power station. But today the Suffolk town was in the spotlight for a very different reason. Its sensational win in the FA Cup, claimed the local newspaper. Last night we showed you the club supporters leaving Leiston for Lewis for their FA Cup replay. In all honesty, not many gave the team much of a chance. But how the players repaid the fans who made the journey down to Sussex, winning the game 3-1 to earn themselves a place in the first round for the first time in their history, and a home match with Fleetwood on Saturday week, a team who play 3 leagues higher than they do.
There's been a football club in Leiston for 128 years, which makes this one of the oldest clubs in the country, but they've never had an achievement like this. And if they're to win the next 2 games in the FA Cup, they could be playing a Premier League club. Dare they really dream it could be Leiston against Manchester United?
Leiston's past glories are reflected in the town's museum, but none of them reach the heights of the current team. Business is sure to be brisk at the rather modest club shop, and when they play their first round match, there'll surely be other advertising vying with this one.
Yeah, a bit of a late night, so looking forward to going home to bed now.
Naturally, everyone wanted to talk about last night's win. Justin Chenry found himself the centre of attention today. He was weary but happy, arriving home in the early hours of the morning and then having to start his postman's round, something Beckham's never had to do.
People at work and people on my round have been stopping and sort of congratulating us. I got a hug off an old lady sort of down the road there a little while ago, and they're all just as excited as we are. So, every day they read the East Anglian and get all the news, and yeah, it's sort of really exciting at the minute.
Ian Smith, the assistant manager of Leiston Football Club and the distribution manager at Clay's Printing at Bungay. He was also at work today after a late night and reflecting on a great atmosphere that involved fans and players.
Oh, it was excellent. You know, if we'd sort of won the cup already, sort of thing. Really, you know, this sort of occasion doesn't come along very often, and you know, to achieve something like this at our level of football is excellent and something that you know not many people do. So, I think everyone realises that, although it's still sinking in. I think, to be honest.
Yeah. Can they keep the run going? Well, in just over a week's time, Justin Chenry and his mates will be trying to deliver another FA Cup surprise. Malcolm Robertson, Anglia News, Leiston in Suffolk.
Now, can you imagine that Leiston versus Manchester United?
Oh,
That'll be a game I'd see, I tell you.
And I love the fact that he just goes back to work the next morning as if nothing's happened, you know, no egos there.
Now, we'll have all the action involving our league clubs and news of one manager facing disciplinary charges later on in the programme.
And I'm afraid it's another chilly weather forecast on the way too. We'll have that and lots more besides.
A parliamentary protest. The campaigners who want to know why a £12 million hospital still isn't fully in use 3 years after it was built.
And a royal past, 70 years since thousands turned out to see the King and Queen. We're celebrating the birthday of a city landmark.
And I'll be here with the weather. This was the crisp, bright scene earlier today in Brundall, Norfolk. This couple seem to be enjoying themselves there, but what's the weather looking like tomorrow? Join me at 6:25 for all of the details.
Well, next tonight, the Ministry of Defence is facing further embarrassment over the theft of computer equipment, but this time from Colchester.
A laptop was stolen from a car parked near army houses. Now, the MOD insists it did not contain any classified information. Well, Timothy Evans is at our Essex News Centre for us now this evening. So, Tim, exactly how was this laptop stolen then?
Well, Sascha, a car was broken into outside Army married quarters
very close to Colchester Football Club's former home at Layer Road. It's essentially a residential street. Access is unrestricted. It's not within the secure cordon of the garrison. You can see the broken window glass on the ground. Now, the thief broke into the car, a Mitsubishi, sometime between 6 p.m. Monday and 6:30 a.m. yesterday. What was stolen was a laptop computer, an army jacket and some personal belongings. Well, an inquiry has been launched. The Ministry of Defence Police are appealing for information. The MP for Colchester spoke to us a short time ago at Colchester.
Almost predictable in Colchester, because Ministry of Defence have cut the number of MOD police in the garrison town from 30 to single figures, and ultimately it will be down to just 2. And the criminal fraternity now know that the army estates in Colchester are virtually open house to them.
So, Tim, the MOD saying, aren't they, not classified information, but do you have any idea what this information actually is?
You're absolutely right, Stephen. The information apparently was not classified. It was not encrypted. The MOD specifically say there was no sensitive or personal data. Well, this isn't the first time that computer equipment has gone astray in Essex. A senior manager at Colchester Hospital was sacked following the theft of a laptop containing patient details. 1 million bank customers were potentially put at risk when a computer containing details was offered for sale on eBay. Well, officials at the Ministry of Defence have seen computer equipment go missing elsewhere around the country. This incident at Colchester may not be damaging to UK security, but it's certainly highly embarrassing.
Tim, for now, thanks very much. Was more news in brief, and more than 800 homes in Essex are still without power after last night's snow. Houses in the Harlow area are the worst affected in the county. Supplies went off at just after 7:30 last night when the bad weather affected some high-voltage cables. Hertfordshire has also been badly hit, with nearly 2,000 customers affected. EDF Energy says they're confident that most homes will be reconnected by the end of the day.
Ipswich Borough Council says it can't rule out job cuts after £5 million was frozen in collapsed Icelandic banks. Its chief executive says the council is trying to recover the money, which is around 10% of its total savings. The council also says that frontline services won't be cut and council tax won't be affected. Meanwhile, Norfolk County Council says it'll only use British banks in future.
A major new contract for aircraft maintenance has been awarded to Marshall Aerospace of Cambridge. The £97 million contract is to maintain the RAF's fleet of TriStar aircraft. The deal will safeguard jobs for the next 7 years. The company, based at Cambridge Airport, employs around 1,700 people.
Sustainment is the key word, keeping the fleet safe, airworthy and also modified and able to perform its tasks as required and improve that capability as this aircraft is being fitted today.
Now, health campaigners have handed in a petition at Westminster over a delay in the full provision of services at a multi-million-pound hospital in Essex.
Local health officials admit there have been problems at the Friat Hospital at Dovercourt. They say a number of floors have had to be replaced, preventing the hospital from fully opening 3 years after it was built. Alba Patel has more.
It was intended as a state-of-the-art centre for hospital and GP services in the Harwich area. Teething troubles, though, mean the full range of services are still not being provided. Today, local health campaigners were at Westminster, urging the speedy completion of repair work so that all departments in the hospital can open as planned. They say delays are unacceptable.
It's been built since 2005, and it's now 2008, and it's not being used as it should do.
The hospital needs to be fully operational. The town needs it, the port needs it, and the community needs it.
So we're getting more and more people in, and yet there's no facilities for them to use if they're ill.
We've been charged £19 million for this hospital. It's about time that it was open and functioning. We were promised a brand new hospital. They closed the old one. So where is it? Why isn't it up and running?
An inpatient ward is already functioning at the Friat Hospital and has proved a success. So have outpatient clinics. What's not yet opened is the long-awaited GP centre. The cause of the delay is a problem which has affected about 15% of the flooring surface in the new hospital. Repairs are now said to be coming to an end.
The floors repair programme has been something that we've been dealing with, but obviously over time services change and the way that they're delivered has changed as well. So it's a whole series of factors really, but we've worked very hard over the last few months to put those right.
Health campaigners say questions remain over why repairs to the building have taken so long. They want urgent efforts to have all departments fully functioning as soon as possible. Alpa Patel, Anglia News.
Norfolk councillors will tonight discuss the possibility of reviving a historic railway line. West Norfolk Council's considering reinstating the Kings Lynn to Hunstanton line if there's enough of the old track left. The line was used by the royal family, including King George VI, for more than a century before closing in 1969. The possible revival has been prompted by the success of the Poppy line, but councillors say it's still in the very early stages.
Pig farmers from East Anglia have been to London to launch a film on the plight of their industry. The farmers are fighting for fairer prices for their meat. They claim around 70% of imported pork products don't meet the UK's high welfare standards. A group of them met with politicians in Westminster, bringing a special pigometer to highlight just how much money has been lost already.
We need to get the labelling regime right. I've got a food labelling bill before the House of Commons which will try to improve the country of origin labelling to make it clear where meat comes from so that consumers can make informed decisions about the meat that they buy.
Now, hundreds gathered at Westminster Abbey today for a memorial service to those who've died in conflict since the Second World War.
Well, for the family of Gary Thompson, who was based at RAF Wittering in Cambridgeshire, it was an emotional day. In April, he became the oldest serviceman to die in Afghanistan at the age of 51.
The youngest of his 5 daughters gave a reading at the ceremony, saying she felt incredibly proud of all the soldiers who've lost their lives. Martin Stew reports.
Arriving at Westminster Abbey today, Princess Anne was the guest of honour at a special service to remember the servicemen and women who have died since the end of the Second World War. Soldiers and airmen doing dangerous work in foreign fields, often overlooked to remember veterans of the 2 world wars. Amongst those in London, the family of senior airman Gary Thompson, who was based at RAF Wittering in Peterborough. He became the oldest British serviceman to die in Afghanistan when he was killed in April, aged 51. His daughter Kelly was chosen for one of the readings.
When all the nation had finished passing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Take 12 men from the people from each
16,000 people have laid down their lives for their country since 1945. The plaque unveiled today is to commemorate them.
I never really understood until my dad went out there, and until you lose someone there, until you've been out there to see the destruction and all the violence and exactly what they do and how hard they work. I think you could never ever fully appreciate what they're doing for our country.
I didn't realise until the service started how moving, powerful and emotional it was today, especially to see the plaque as well. And I think the words on it just say everything really, how I feel. We're incredibly proud of Gary and of everybody else as well, and they're all in our hearts and minds.
The memorial is covered in earth from 15 different battlefields around the world. A reminder of the foreign countries servicemen from across our region are serving in right now. For those who make it back safe, remembering fallen comrades has rarely been more important.
It means a lot to me because I served there. I got back in April, and then I had a hard time out there. Everybody who's been Iraq, Afghanistan, any other operational tour, it's a hard time for everybody. So as long as we get the support where we need it, always before me, say.
A chilling reminder that conflict is never far away. Today, tomorrow and forever, we must remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice. Martin Stew, Anglia News.
Well, you're watching Anglia tonight. Good to have you with us this evening. It's 6:20 and at 6:30, here's what's coming up in the national news.
Coming up on tonight's evening news, within the last hour, Russell Brand has quit the BBC. It comes on the day he and Jonathan Ross were both suspended following 18,000 complaints over their offensive telephone prank.
And a former nursery owner is fined £55,000 for gross incompetence after a toddler strangled herself with a clothes bag. Join us for all the day's top stories at 6:30.
Well, it's been another cold day outside, hasn't it, today? And it's a reminder that winter is on the way, I'm afraid, but many vulnerable people and those on low incomes are struggling to meet rocketing heating bills.
Well, now concerns have been raised for a government-backed scheme designed to help them. Louise Beale has been to meet one customer from Essex who claims she's been let down.
53-year-old Joan Watson and her son don't just need extra layers when they go out at the moment, they need them inside too. Joan's boiler broke down in June, but as a member of the Warm Front scheme, she thought the problem would be resolved quickly after she reported it. 4 months on, and nothing's happened.
It keeps me awake at night worrying that, are the pipes going to freeze? And what we're going to do when it really gets cold, when it's, like freezing outside, am I still going to be jumping up and down trying to get Warm Front to take some notice of me when nothing's actually happening?
OK, so this is the boiler, is it?
Yes. Now this shows that it's, because it's leaking, the parts are obsolete so it can't be repaired, and it also mustn't be used because it's, in the end, I've got to have some heating. I can't be left all winter with nothing. I applied, earlier on. If I'd applied last week, yes, well, you have to wait your turn, but I just don't seem to be in the queue.
Warm Front is a scheme funded by the government. Anyone claiming certain benefits can apply for a grant for a package of insulation or heating measures to the value of up to £4,000. Joan isn't the only person worried about a cold winter ahead. Many other vulnerable and older people are at risk too.
I think everybody should be entitled to, getting something fixed that's not working properly, especially when it's heating, especially when they're vulnerable, especially when it's wintertime.
Well, I've spoken to Warm Front and they wanted to stress they never have been or will be an emergency service. But they do say that when new customers sign up, they are all told that their new boiler will be installed within a 6-month period. So that gives a few more months yet for Joan. But as far as her case goes, they say they are looking to install her new boiler as soon as possible and that a surveyor will call her in the next few days. Perhaps just cold comfort for Joan, who just hopes her heating's back up and running before Christmas. Louise Beale, Anglia News, Chelmsford.
Well, on to sport now, and Norwich City manager Glenn Roeder has been charged with improper conduct following an incident at half-time during the Canaries' defeat at Derby last night. Roeder already has a suspended 2-match touchline ban following last season's match at Bristol City. He has until November the 13th to respond to the new charge.
Well, that game was one of 3 to take place last night, with Colchester's trip to Northampton a victim of an unusually early snow flurry. Jim Rice starts his roundup for us at Sixfields.
Look at the bigger picture. That's the message from Ipswich manager Jim Magilton to the fans who may be preparing to give him a hard time at tonight's match with Charlton. It's also the message from the Blues' secretive owner Marcus Evans. His comments for the matchday programme were released in the town's evening paper today. Evans also gives his 100% backing to Magilton, but the Ipswich boss knows results on the field will only satisfy Town's owner in the long term.
Patience isn't a virtue in football at the moment. We've seen Ian Dowie losing his job last week. Incredible, really. And I think that if we are patient, and again, we are in a results-driven business. I understand that. And if the results aren't good, then obviously you put yourself under enormous pressure.
Tonight's match with Charlton is a return of their meeting at the Valley less than a month ago. The same applies to all championship fixtures, including Norwich's trip to Derby. And while the game at Carrow Road is still being investigated by the FA, amid reports of unusual betting patterns in the Far East gambling markets, the Norwich manager says the club has nothing to worry about.
It is unsavoury when there's accusations made, about the particular game that he was involved in. But to be quite honest, I forgot about it very quickly, because as far as I'm concerned, there isn't anyone here at Norwich who would have anything to worry about anyway. And I'm sure the FA would have been in touch with us by now.
In League One, Colchester hope to build on their historic first win at their new home.
Well, you probably wonder what that was all about. That was actually a report that ran yesterday, so sorry about that.
Quite an exciting day.
Finger trouble there, but never mind, we'll move on.
Moving on, and in fact you may have had a sneak preview before that of the pictures behind you, and we can tell you now that it was a landmark day in Norwich's civic history.
Yes, it was the day that thousands turned out to see King George VI and Queen Elizabeth officially open the new City Hall.
Now, it was exactly 70 years ago, and today there were celebrations to mark the building's intriguing past. Sally Rourke reports.
City Hall is a symbol of Norwich, a proud part of the skyline with its own sky-high views, and it's drawn the biggest crowd ever seen in this city.
To open the magnificent new City Hall at Norwich, built at a cost of £300,000,
come the King and Queen, cheered by a very big crowd.
It's 70 years to the day that the King and Queen of England opened the hall, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth.
And we are especially happy to be in the capital of my native county on so important a day in its history.
Today it was reopened as such for its 70th birthday. Back in 1938, thousands flocked to Norwich, and some of those among them gathered again today. At the time, Len and Barbara Bennett didn't know each other, but this year celebrated their diamond wedding anniversary.
What does it feel like having been there and meeting the King and Queen?
It didn't register very much with me. I think I was more interested in the goodie bag we got afterwards.
Well, I don't remember the goodie bag, so he must have had mine.
City Hall itself has some impressive attributes. The balcony is the longest in the UK at 365 feet. The Lord Mayor's chamber panelling is made from wood of an entire Canadian maple. Meanwhile, the bell, Great George, is said to have the deepest tone in East Anglia. But most interestingly of all, it's thought Hitler would have loved to have had his hands on this building had he invaded Britain.
It's not a rumour, it's actually very true. At the time, of course, during the war, Hitler actually found that because we're actually on the east coast and of course the city of Norwich, he actually wanted to get his hands on this as a headquarters.
The City Hall has also drawn many crowds for Norwich City Football Club, most notably in 2004 when they were promoted to the Premiership, but football also featured back in 1938.
Meanwhile, the King has gone to Carrow Road Football Ground to see the match between Norwich City and Millwall.
Mary White is the granddaughter of the Lord Mayor at the time, Geoffrey Watling, the chairman of Norwich City.
He watched the game with my granddad, Lord Mayor of Norwich, and then my grandmother went to the hospital, North Norwich Hospital, with my cousin, who presented flowers to the Queen there.
The hall was on show for everyone to see today, with both talks and tours, if you had the energy.
Well, I've just climbed 176 steps. We're 206 feet up on the top of the clock tower. Exhausted, but it was worth it. Just look at these views.
From every side, it's a panoramic picture, soaking up the city for some 70 years. Sally Rourke, Anglia News, Norwich.
I've climbed that tower too, and those views really are spectacular.
But it's still 176 steps. Anyway, time for the forecast now with Amanda.
For all life's ups and downs, insurance from Norwich and Peterborough. Sponsors of Anglia Weather.
Good evening. Well, tomorrow is looking mostly cloudy with some scattered showers, and it's sunny spells with some heavier showers on Friday, and we keep that chilly feel as the low pressure is dominating, which is allowing the cold air to feed in. But the good news is the low pressure is far enough away to allow some brighter and drier weather into our region at times. So in the meantime, back to tonight, and it will be mostly dry, apart from the odd shower, which is along the east coast there. And temperatures not quite as cold as last night. We could see a 1 or a 2 in places, but still cold enough for some widespread frost. So it's a mostly cloudy start tomorrow, and we could see the odd shower in places, and it's more of the same for the afternoon. But we should see some sunny spells mixed in there too, and that's with a top temperature of 8 degrees, although feeling chilly in that northeasterly breeze there. So onto the outlook, and it's sunny spells and heavier showers on Friday and lighter showers for Saturday, and it's mostly cloudy on Sunday and Monday. The winds staying in a northeasterly direction and could become quite fresh at times. And temperatures gradually creeping back up to around 10 degrees as we get to the weekend. That's all from me then. Good night.
Insurance from the experts at Norwich and Peterborough.
And that's Wednesday's Anglia Tonight from Sascha and me. Good evening.
Good evening.
We made a mistake. We crossed the line. I'm not going to work for the BBC anymore because I believe that what I did was wrong.
Russell Brand resigns. He quits the BBC after his controversial prank phone calls. Hauled off the air, BBC bosses had already suspended Brand and Jonathan Ross. Tonight, paying the price for the phone calls to Andrew Sachs that provoked outrage.
I'm not out for revenge or anything like that. These two performers, I'm a performer. Sometimes it goes very wrong.
There have now been 27,000 complaints about the programme tonight. The BBC's Director General, Mark Thompson, described the broadcast as a gross lapse of taste.
Also on the programme. Still waiting for an answer. Will this woman's husband be jailed if he helps her to die? The little girl who died because of a nursery owner's gross incompetence. And a grieving family leads the tributes at a service to remember Britain's war dead.
Good evening. Within the past hour, the comedian Russell Brand has quit the BBC. His resignation comes on the day both he and Jonathan Ross were pulled off air following public outrage surrounding their offensive phone calls to the veteran actor Andrew Sachs. Brand said tonight he got caught up in the moment and took full responsibility. Jonathan Ross has also publicly apologised. The BBC's Director General said the two stars were guilty of a gross lapse of taste. And as for the man at the centre of it all, Andrew Sachs, he said the pair had got it badly wrong. Here's Paul Davis with the latest tonight.
He was already suspended from the BBC. Tonight, Russell Brand said it would be better if he left the corporation.
I only do that radio show because I want to make people laugh and make people happy, and obviously it's gone beyond the point where I do that. Obviously I'm making people unhappy and angry and sad, so I'd like to not do that radio show anymore.
And he apologised to those he'd hurt.
I was being really silly and got caught up in the spirit of the moment, and it was so